All right, guys, so we're going to move on to section 2 of Crash Zone. And what we're going to do here is we are going to start looking at the collision angles. So this is part of where the game gets a little bit more complicated, but we want to make it so that when the cars collide, we're not just going to do this blind damage no matter what. We're going to make it change based on the angle that the cars are facing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a global variable. So we're going to right click and make a global variable, and we're going to call it collision angle. Name it properly here, collision angle. Okay, and that can just be 0 to start. So we have the collision angle there. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we are going to add a new action to this every tick down here. Okay, and we're going to do add an action. We're going to do system. We're going to do set value. Okay, and we're going to set collision angle to a particular value. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to put in a formula here. Okay, so what we're going to do is basically we want to have the collision angle compare the angle of the two cars. So in order to compare the angle of two cars, what we have to do is we have to type in the word angle, and we have to do a parentheses, and we have to do car black dot x, and then comma car black dot y, comma, and then we have to do car white dot x, car white dot y. So car white dot x, comma, car white dot y. Then we do a parentheses at the end. So it should look like that. For every tick, we're setting the collision angle to basically match the angle. So basically, no matter where the cars are, this isn't even like when they're colliding. It's just constantly comparing the angles of the two cars is what it's doing. Okay, so that's what we need to have there. Okay. Now we're going to start adding some collision events. And one thing too, as we get into this and it's a little bit more complicated, you do want to make sure you start putting in comments. So I'm going to show you how to do that as we go through here. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to have car black on collision with car white, which we already have right here, right? So we have this here, car black on collision with car white. Well, we want to make a note so we actually know what's happening here. So to make a comment, I'm going to right click on the green arrow and I'm going to do add and then comment right here, add comment. And it's just going to put a bar above it. And for the comment, I can just type in whatever I want. This is kind of like notes. It's not actual code. It won't affect your game in any way. There's no incorrect way to write something. So it's just like writing out a note to yourself. So we're going to say assign damage to car black. Okay, and the reason why this is important is we want to know that this is the collision event where the black car is taking damage because these event sets are going to look very similar, right? So the notes are going to be really important. So if this event number 5 is assigning damage to car black, this event 7 down here should be assigning damage to car white. So I'm going to right click and add a comment onto this one, and we're going to do assign damage to car white. Okay, and this one here, let's make that consistent. Okay. All right, so now we got a couple of notes there. That should help. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to make some sub events here. So let me just check my notes here. Yep, so we're going to add 4 sub events off of this guy right here. So I just want to make sure I got the right spot here. Speed of car white. Yes, okay, perfect. So we're in the right spot. Sorry, I'm working off of like notes here and making sure I'm doing everything right. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to right click and add a sub event. Okay, and then we're going to do car black, and we're going to check car black's angles. So we're going to say is between angles, which is actually the very first one here. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we are going to do 315 and 45. And what we're going to do is we will make notes so that we know like what direction each of these angles are. Okay, so the first angle is 315 and the second angle is 45. Okay, so it should look something like that. Okay, and then we're going to make a comment on it. So we're going to right click and we're going to add a comment. Okay, and this is going to be car black facing right. So something like that, okay? So that's gonna show that the car block is actually facing right, okay? And then we're gonna do more sub-events that are gonna do different angles, okay? And we're gonna do more sub-events off of this one as well, okay? So we're gonna add a sub-event to the one we just made. So right here, this is between angles. We're gonna add a sub-event to this, sub-event there, okay? And then we're gonna do system is between values. System is between, okay, right here. Perfect. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we want to take the absolute value of the collision angle. So for the value, we're going to write ABS. We're going to do parentheses collision angle. Okay. And then for the lower bound, we want 0, and the upper bound, we want 45. Okay. So basically, this is going to give us, if the angle is 45 in between 0 and 45, or if it's between 0 and negative 45, this will still trigger the same. That's what the absolute value part does. Okay. And we'll put notes in here. Okay. All right. So then what this is going to be here, if I right click it and add a comment, this is going to be front damage is what this is going to be called. Front damage. Okay. Like that. Perfect. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make an event that will subtract from the health based on the front damage. So we're going to add an action right here, and we're going to do car black, subtract from, and we're going to subtract from health. Okay, now this part's tricky. It's kind of an equation. So we are going to do front end damage, the variable. So if you start typing in, you'll get that variable. Okay, times, so you can do shift 8 for a star. Okay, and then this one's going to be car white. It's not char white. We want car white. Okay, there we go. Car white dot damage multiplier. And that should be it there. So front end damage times car white's damage multiplier. And then that's how much we're going to be subtracting from for the front damage. Okay. Now don't worry. So what's going to happen is this can be really complex and we're doing a lot of sub events in that. The nice thing is then later on when we're going to do this for the other car, we could like copy and paste it all in, but then we got to make sure we modify everything to match. Okay. All right. So at this point, you could run and test and see if that collision is starting to work, but just keep in mind it's only going to be for the one angle. So it's probably a good idea to just save at this point, but then just kind of keep going. But if you want to try to test it out, you can. Okay, now we're going to go back to this event that says car black is facing right, and we're going to add other sub events for the other directions, basically. Okay, so we're going to do a side damage thing here. So we're going to add a sub event. So just I'm on event number 7 here. So car black is between those degrees. So I'm going to right click and add a sub event. Okay, and we're going to do system is between values again. Oh, hand's not in the right spot on the keyboard. Okay, is between values. There we go. All right. And then what we're going to do is absolute value of collision angle again. So ABS collision angle. Okay. And then this time we are going to do 135 and 180. So 135 and then 180. Okay. All right, so that's the second one. And then this one here is going to be rear damage. So I'm going to make a comment on that. So I'm going to add comment. We're going to go rear damage. Okay. That, perfect. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we are going to copy and paste this, and then we're going to make a side damage. So if you just highlight it, you can press Control C as in car, then Control V as in van, and we'll paste one right below it. And this one, we're just going to double click and change it to 45 and 135. So let's do 45, 135, like that. And then we're going to make a comment on this new one, add comment. And then this one here is going to be side damage. Okay, perfect. So we've got that. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are basically going to do another event off of this one that's going to be for different directions. But one thing here is I just want to double check and make sure I didn't miss something back here. So just give me 1 second here. Uh, okay. So we're not adding the actions in for this yet. It'll come in later, but yeah, it's not having me add that in yet. I'm basically just following the presentation and doing it with you in a video format here, okay? All right, so we did the side damage. Yep. Okay. All right. So now we're gonna go back into the is between 315 and or sorry, is between 45 and 135. Okay. 40. Oh no, yeah, we did that already. Yep. Test car white speed at a new sub event. Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah, right here. Sorry. So go to event 6, car white speed. We're gonna add a sub event to this. We're gonna add sub event, and then we're gonna do car black is between angles. Okay, and then we're gonna do 45 and 135. There we go, like that. There we go. That's what we meant to do. And what you can do is you could minimize this here. So like I could minimize it, and then you can kind of see them next to each other. Or not this one, sorry, this one here. You can minimize this. And so this is the one we just made. This 45 and 135 is right here. So we did a sub event on number 6. The absolute value is greater than 75. And then this one pops up down here. It's just that this was all opened up. So we can minimize the car black is between 315 and 45, and then we can see this one right here. Okay. All right. And so then this is going to be car black facing down. So we're going to add a comment there. Comment. So we're going to do car black facing down. Okay, like that. Perfect. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add the sub event for the front damage. So what we're going to do is basically the same as this. So we could copy and paste that in if we wanted to. So why don't we do that? So I'm going to hold control and I'm going to highlight the front damage in this first one here from the previous one we did. And I'm going to right click and copy it. And then now we're going to go on to this new one, the 45 and 135, and we're going to paste it. So I'll paste it like that. Now mine didn't actually go in as a sub event, so I'm gonna have to grab it again and pull it in as a sub event like that. If that seemed too complicated for you, just right click on this, add a sub event, and then do system is between values. And then this value here is going to change. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna double click, and this one here is gonna be 45 and 135. So it should look like that. Okay. And then the rest of it I think should be fine. Yep, and then we have the front damage. Yep, we've got that. Okay. And then we're going to make the rear damage. So we're just going to copy and paste this. Okay. Um, but what we're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to take that off for now because the instructions right now aren't showing me to put actions in there yet. So we're going to take that out. All right. So now we're going to do this and we're going to basically, we're just going to copy and paste this. So I'm going to hold control and highlight both. Control C to copy, control V to paste like that. And then we're going to change this one to rear damage. Okay, and then we're going to do change these numbers to negative 135 and negative 45. Okay, like that. So that's how that should look. Okay, so just to recap, if you minimize these, you should see car black facing right and down should just be even with each other, and they're both sub-events of this absolute value is greater than 75. Okay, and then this one should be a sub-event of the car black on collision with car white. Okay, so if we open these both up, we should see all the directional damages here, but we don't have actions in these yet. Okay. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add another sub event to the car black facing down event. So we're going to go right here. We're going to add another sub event, And basically this one is going to be for the side damage. So what we can do is let's just copy the rear damage. So let's just hold control and select them both. We'll do control C to copy, control V to paste. We're going to call this last one side damage. Okay, like that. And then we're just going to change these values to 0 and 45. So we're going to go 0 and positive 45. Okay, so it should be front, rear, and side. And you can see just like how the other one had front, rear, and side as well. Okay, so that looks good. Um, oh yeah, so this one is going to be an OR block because there could be multiple situations that count as the side. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on this event we just made and we're going to do make OR block on it. So basically we're going to add a condition, but it's going to make it an OR statement instead of an AND statement. So we're going to add another condition to this. Okay. And then we're going to do system is between values again. Is between values. Okay. And then what we're going to do is absolute value of collision angle. Like that. So the ABS parentheses collision angle and then end parentheses. And then this one we're going to do 135 and 180. 135, 180, like that. So it should look like that. Okay. If you put it in and you don't see the word or there, just right click and do make or block. Although I don't think they would let you put this in. And you do have to put the or block in, I think, before you add the condition, because having both of these as a condition with an and statement doesn't make sense. So I don't even think it'll let you. So you might have to do the or block first. And when you right click and you do make or block, like you don't visually see anything until you add a condition in there. So it's not going to like change right away. Okay. All right. So we've got that. That should be perfect. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we need to do some other directions. So you can see we've got car black facing right and we've got car black facing down. So what we're going to do is we're going to just copy these and we're going to do left and we're going to do up. So what we're going to do is this. So for car black facing down, let's just copy this one as a base. So we're going to click this first event here, hold control and grab the comment, and we're going to do control C to copy and then control V to paste. And you're going to paste 2 times. Okay, so I pasted twice now. I'm going to minimize these so you guys can see what I did. Okay, so you should see I should have 2 extra facing downs. Okay, so the second one here, we're going to change this one to facing up. So we're going to do like this. Whoops, facing up. Okay, and then this one we're going to change to facing left. Okay, like that. So let's go into the car block facing up and we're just going to alter these numbers. So this first one should be negative 135 and negative 45. Okay, like that. Okay, the second one, the rear damage here is going to be 45 and 135. 45, 135. Okay, and then the side damage, the first value is going to be 0 and 45, which is fine. That one's already there. And the second one's going to be 135 and 180. So that one's actually correct. So you can just leave that one. Okay. Now let's do car black facing left and open that up. Okay. And then let me just make sure. Oh, nope, I forgot one important thing. The car black facing up, let's go back to that. This first 45 and 135, that needs to be changed. That needs to be 225 and 315. Okay. That. Okay, and now we can go to car black facing left. So this first number here at the top, the 45 and 135, we're going to change that to 135 and 225. Okay, like that. All right, and then we're going to do the front damage is 135 and 180. Okay. And then the rear damage is 0 and 45. 0, 45. Okay, and then the last one on this one does not have an OR block, so you're going to just delete the OR off of that. And then we're going to do 45 to 135. So let's do 45 and then 135, like that. Perfect. All right, so that's it. So you definitely want to like compare yours and make sure it looks like mine here. So I'm going to minimize it all. So if you minimize it all, you should see the absolute value of car white speed greater than 75. And then you should see right, down, up, and left all even with each other. And then each one of these should have the front, rear, and side, front, rear, and side, and then front, rear, and side. So all these should have a front, rear, and side. So you see when you open it all up, it gets pretty long. So that's why it is good to get in the habit of minimizing things here and there so that you're not overwhelmed by all of it. I would say if you want to check these more clearly, you could go back in the video and look at it, or I have sample code on Google Classroom. Just compare yours to that sample code. Okay. So that's how that all should look. There shouldn't be any actions on these yet. Okay. All right. Perfect. So we're going to go next slide. I think here. Let me see here. Um, 1 second. Okay. So we did that. Okay. Perfect. All right. So I'm just going to find a next spot here. All right. All right. So now we're going to basically work on the car white. So what we're going to do is this assigned damage to car black. We're going to minimize that because we're kind of done with that for now. And now we're going to look at the assigned damage to car white. Okay. So let's have that opened up and we're going to be focusing on that. Okay. Um, and then we're going to kind of do the same setup here where we're going to be checking the angles. And actually, I want to check here. I almost want to say we should just copy. So let's do this. So we have assigned damage to car white. We have the, so basically all these sub events, we're going to have the same ones for white. They're just going to look a little bit different. So what I'm going to say is let's do this. Let's grab the car black facing right, hold control, and you're going to click on all these with the comments while holding control. Okay. Then while holding control, we're going to drag it as a sub event right underneath here, right underneath the 75. Okay. And then it's just going to be a matter of editing this. So right now, all this stuff down here is it's there, but it's incorrect. So we just have to make sure that we get it. So let's change all these car blacks in the comments to car white. Let's start with that. Car white, 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 car white. This will save us a lot of coding just by having this all in, and then we're basically just editing it, right? Okay. All right. So then this one is going to be 315 to 45. Now, here's the other thing. All these car blacks, we need to change these into car whites. So what we're going to do is you're going to right click on the actual car black icon here, and we're going to replace object with car white. Okay, and you're going to do that on all of them. Right click, replace object, car white. Right click, replace object, car white. Right click, replace with car white. Okay. And you know you're doing this right because the comment should say car white, so then the car here should be car white. If you go back up on our car black, these should all be car black right here, okay? All right, so we've got that first part done, okay? So for the front damage, we want to have that test if the angle is 135 and 180. All right, so here we're going to do 135 and 180, okay, like that. Okay, for the rear damage, we're going to do 0 and 45. 0, whoops. So here we're going to do 0 and 45. Okay. And then for the side damage, we're going to do this one. And we're going to do 45 and 135. So that one's actually correct already. Okay. And we have our comments in already, so we're good to go there. I'm just going to check something really quick here. Make sure it looks right on mine. So we have car white is between 315 and 45. We've got the front at 135 and 180, 0 and 45 for rear, and side is 45 and 135. All right, that is correct, so we're good to go there. Okay, so I'm just gonna check that I did those. Go to the next one. All right. All right, so the next one we're gonna do, so we did car white facing right, okay? So now we're gonna go into car white facing down and make sure we get all this correct. So this one, car white facing down, 45 and 135 is good. And then front damage is gonna be negative 135 and negative 45. So negative 135 and negative 45, okay. Whoops, okay. And then rear damage is 45 and 135. 45, 135, okay. And then side damage, we're gonna have 0 and 45, we're gonna have the OR block, and it's gonna be 135 and 180. So this side damage as is actually correct. Okay, so that's car white facing down. So we're done with right and we're done with down. So now we're gonna do car white facing up next. Okay, and car white facing up is 225 and 315, which is correct. This one should be 45 and 135. That's for the front damage. 45 and 135 there. Okay. Rear damage is negative 135 and negative 45. So negative 135, negative 45. Okay, perfect. And then this OR block here will have 0 and 45 like it is, and then 135 and 180. So that side damage is correct. Okay, so we have right, down, and up done. So now we're going to go to left. Car white facing left, we've got 135 and 225. That's already good. Front damage is 0 to 45. So 0, 45. Okay, rear damage is 135 to 180. 5 to 180. Okay, and then the side damage is 45 to 135, which is already correct. So we're good to go there. All right, so we've got some of the main stuff set up here for the car directions, basically. So now we need to set up some more data so that we can actually put these actions in and get some calculating going. So what we're going to do is we're going to make two global variables. We need a global variable for like the side damage and a global variable for the rear damage. So we're going to go down, we're going to right click and add a global variable. We're going to do side damage, and we're going to make it 15. Okay. Then we're going to make another global variable. So just go down to the bottom, right click, add a global variable, and we're going to do rear end damage. And that rear end damage is going to start off at 10. Okay, so we've got that and we've got that. So at the top here, we should have side damage, rear end damage, and we still have those that we made earlier. Okay, perfect. All right, so now we're going to add some actions. So we're going to go to the event that assigns damage to car black. So let's find that. So here's assign damage to car black. Okay. And we want to find the event for rear damage when car black is facing right. So car black is facing right, and we want rear damage, which is right here. Okay. And then we're going to do car black. So we're going to add an action here. Car black, subtract from. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to subtract from health, and then we're going to type a little equation. So it's going to basically be the rear end damage that we just created times, so shift 8, car white dot damage multiplier. Car white dot damage multiplier. Like that. Okay. So we've got that and we're good there. All right. So now we've got the rear end damage, right? Perfect. All right. So now we're going to go to the side damage event where the car black is facing right. So here's car black facing right and side damage. And we're going to add an action here. So we are going to do car black, subtract from. Okay, and then we're going to do health. And then we're going to type in another equation. Now this one's going to be side damage. So we're going to do side damage times shift 8. And then we're going to do car white dot damage multiplier. Car white dot damage multiplier. Okay, and that should be good there. Perfect. So now you can see for this is what all three of these should look like now that we have those variables in. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're basically going to copy these basically into the other ones below it. So we've got car white facing down. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this front end damage one. So we're going to open up the car white facing down. Okay. And what we're going to do is we are going to copy the front end damage right here. And we're going to hold control and drag that down into the front damage for this one. Okay. And then I'm just going to check and make sure. All right. And then basically we're just going to do this on everything. So we're going to take this rear damage one, control copy that down to the rear damage here. And then we're going to take the side damage one. So basically what you're doing is you're copying all of the side damage ones into the other side damage ones. Okay, just like that. And then I think we're going to have to do that for up and for left as well. So we're going to have to do that for all of these. So if we open up all of these, we basically just need to go in and copy all of these actions in. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab front damage, copy that into this front damage down here, and then rear damage into rear damage. So yeah, I'm just going to take some time and do that. I think you can figure it out from here, but all the side damage ones go into all the side damage ones, etc. All right, so then here's this side damage goes down into this one. And then we got to take this rear damage into this one, and then the front damage into the front damage. Here we go. Like that. All right, and I think I've got it. So let's just recap here and make sure you have everything. Okay, so let's minimize all this. So we haven't done any of the car white stuff yet. Okay, so basically we have, this is all in assign damage to car black. Okay, and then for right, down, up, and left, you should open up each one, and you should see the front, rear, and side, and they all should have actions. Make sure that the front actually says front end damage, the rear says rear end damage, and the side says side damage. And so you just want to open up and check all of them, make sure you have all of the actions in, and that you copied them incorrectly. And I believe mine should be good. All right, so we did that. Should be good there. And at this time you could test it, but it's only going to work for car black taking damage. So if you want to test that out at this time, you can. Okay. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of do the same stuff for car white. Okay, so there is like one little mistake that I noticed from earlier that we're going to fix right now. So we had just finished doing all of these, basically all these actions for assigning damage to car black. And now I'm going to minimize that and we're going to do assign damage to car white. Now, mine set up here, for some reason I have this car black action here. We need to get rid of that. So I'm just going to delete that. If yours looks like mine, get rid of that. And then this car white front end damage, I put it up here, it looks like by mistake or earlier, but that should be down here in front damage. So that's just a confusion part there. But so it should look like this. So assign damage to car white starting off right now. Under facing right and front damage, you should just have this right here. And it should say car white subtract front end damage times car black damage multiplier from health. Okay. Once you have that set up correct, then we're just going to copy this and we're going to put it under rear damage and we're going to put it under side damage. But then what we're going to do is we're going to edit this one so that it does the rear damage. So now instead of front end damage, I'm just going to change that to rear damage. A rear end damage. Okay, and then this one's going to be side damage here. Side damage. Perfect. Like that. Okay, so that, and then basically we're just going to copy this into all the other ones, but we'll just make sure. So for facing right front damage, subtract front end, and you got to make sure it's subtracting from the car black damage multiplier. So rear end and then side damage. And then you want to make sure that all of these are showing the car white, that these are not car black. One of the most common mistakes is that when students are copying and pasting these, they like forget to change the cars or they put the wrong cars there. So you can see on the assign damage to car black, um, all of these are car black in the actions. And so then when we are assigning damage to car white, all these should be car white in the actions. Okay. And then if you have that correct, then we're simply going to copy those into all the next ones. So I'm going to take the front end damage, copy that into the next front damage, take the rear damage, copy that into the next rear damage, and then side damage into the next side damage there. Okay. And then we're just going to go and open up the next section and do the same thing here. So front damage into this front damage down here, rear. And you guys can see that this is why the comments are so important, right? Without the comments here, we would just have to be looking at these numbers and we wouldn't necessarily remember what they mean. So having the comments is like really, really useful. So that's why, especially when you're making complex games, you always want to use comments. All right, so you got those copied in, and then the last one will be left. So we have to grab the front first. Okay, and then we'll grab the rear. So I'm just holding control and dragging is how I do all this copying, which you guys should know that by now, right? All right, so then once again, we can verify. So assign damage to car white. You can just make sure the front, rear, and side, they're all matching up. So side, rear, front. You just want to make sure you have all those actions in, okay? And once you have all that, we can just minimize it, and then you should have the car black and car white. That should all be kind of filled out and done, okay?